Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know? Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say
Hello. We are back again. I am your girl, the CEO Shakima, the CEO, the COO of the Say What podcast. I hope everyone is well as you're listening to the sounds of my voice. I'm super excited to be back again. Chameleons, you know that I love you endlessly. Thank you for rocking with me. You know that we always have to pay homage. So thank you to the branding company for being the engine and getting this motor running. Thank you, Whitfield, again for the song that is so fitting for my personality and everything that I stand for. Thank you. All right, guys, you know we got to pay some homage, and guess what? We'll be right back.
Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know? Did you see? Did you hear?
All right, chameleons, we are back, and y'all know that as soon as we get back from paying that homage, like we get right into it because I just like to put it out there. So I hope everyone is caught up. Like you listened to the intro, last week, because I was just kind of giving you just a snippet of what I wanted to talk about on the next episode, which is this episode, which is, answering some questions. I've been getting a lot of questions because I've been posting a lot of reels like I normally do. Shout out to the reels because I kind of get paid for that now. So I'm super proud of myself. I've also made my first money doing ads on my TikTok. And I'm super excited. I don't care if it's $10, $100, $1,000. Like I'm celebrating myself because I came a long way. Right? I started from ground zero. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea I would still be here doing podcasts 2 years later. I had everything going on in my life, and it seemed like things were not even going good and not going right. But I'm still here. Right. I stayed consistent. I stayed dedicated. Did I have to kind of take a break every now and then to kind of get my mental together? Absolutely. But I'm still here and I'm celebrating myself. So congratulations to myself for making your first money doing advertisements on your podcast. So I'm kind of talking to myself. But anyway, ladies, you got to celebrate yourself. Gentlemen, you got to celebrate yourself. Chameleons, you got to celebrate yourself. So, all right. So let's get off of that and let's answer some of these questions. So the biggest question, the $1 million question is, yeah, I see you're back at work. You're back in your career as an engineer. So everybody wants to know what's going on with that. And look, I'm always, my goal is always to be transparent and keep it 100 with everybody because there are so many things that I wish I would have known probably 10, 20 years ago that I know now. And I know that I would have made, some different decisions. But anyway, yes, I am back at work. I am loving what I do. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was at a very hard place. Because I had to make a decision. Now, am I an entrepreneur? Yes, I am an entrepreneur. I'm still an entrepreneur. I still help people when it comes to making better financial decisions, teaching people how to maintain and master the art of credit, because credit is not a science. Credit is an art. right? So I still help people maintain and master the art of credit, right? I still teach financial literacy because it's a plague in the community, right? A lot of people don't know because they don't know. So I feel like that's a calling, right, on my life, and I can't let that go. I'm going to always do something to serve people, right? Especially underserved and overlooked people, because that's where the big gap is. So someone like me has to stand in the gap, and all the knowledge that I have, it would not do anyone a service if I don't share that, right? Because if you don't share the information that you know, when you pass on, all that information is going with you. But if you want your legacy to live on, you have to pour into people and you have to serve people. So I'm always going to do that, right? So that goes into what we're going to talk about, entrepreneurship, right? Talking about, still, working for corporate America. So yes, I am back in corporate America. As I said, in the intro, I love what I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, entrepreneurship is a really good avenue, right? And it's a lot of things that people don't share when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? One thing that I've learned is that everybody doesn't need to be an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, and I work with other entrepreneurs, I'm like, right? It takes a different kind of person. You got to be relentless. I mean, you got to be like any means necessary, right? And it takes resources, meaning it takes funding, right, to be in entrepreneurship. And, people don't want to show the bumps and the bruises. Some people do, but I've noticed that a lot of people don't show the bumps and the bruises, right? And then someone on the outside looking in, you may just tap into that person that's really succeeding in entrepreneurship, but that could be, they could be in year 12, right, of their entrepreneurship journey, and they just made it. And that's what you tapped into. So you see all the glitz and the glamour. But prior to them becoming successful at year 2, just think about all the bumps and the bruises that they had to endure, right? You'll be broke. You'll be lonely, right? You'll be confused. You'll be overwhelmed, right? You'll be trying to quit, right? But those are all the things that people don't show you, right? Not all people, but a lot of people I see don't show that part of the journey. And to me, that's the most important part, because you can't fall in love with someone's success. You have to fall in love with someone's journey, right? You have to fall in love with someone's process. What did they do to become successful, right? Because if you fall in love with the result, you may never become successful because you miss everything that really matters. And I want everyone to grasp that. Don't fall in love with the results. You got to fall in love with the process, right? Very successful I was as an entrepreneur, right? And still is. Still successful. But as I said, I had to make a decision, right? Do I care about what people think because I'm going back to my career, right? My engineering career. Or do I limit myself and my family, right? I didn't want my story to be, I had to sacrifice this for my kids. I had to sacrifice that, from my kids so I can make it. I didn't want to be that. So if I can go back to my career and produce more income and still be an entrepreneur so my kids don't have to lack, because at the end of the day, it's about my kids, right? It's about my family, being able to properly take care of my family the way I wanted to. So yes, I went back to my career and I absolutely love it, right? And I wasn't gonna let what people thought deter me from making probably one of the most important decisions I'd ever have to make in my life, right? Nobody's opinion is going to feed my family, Like I said, you got to be transparent and you got to show people, like, yeah, I had to make that decision. Now, was it hard for me? It wasn't the easiest decision because it was a lot of like what if scenarios, right? But at the end of the day, I know God got me, and it was in a nick of time. And I absolutely love what I do, and I really enjoy the people that I work with. I enjoy the culture that I'm a part of, and I'm still living out a part of my dream, right? Which goes on to say, you can still be successful working for someone else, because everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. Now, I feel like everybody has some type of entrepreneur in them, but I feel like everybody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. If everybody's an entrepreneur, who's going to do the other things that are important? Right? We still need doctors, we still need lawyers, we still need engineers, right? We still need people to go to college to fill those positions. And I can really get deep into this, right? Just think about it. If everybody's an entrepreneur, who's teaching our kids, right? Who's the pediatrician for our kids? Who's the dentist for our kids? Who's policing our kids, right? So you can still work for someone else. And if you still want to be an entrepreneur, you can be an entrepreneur. But we still need those people to fill those voids. If you get what I'm saying without me having to say it, right? And then also at the same time, I felt like I was downplaying myself, because being a female Black engineer, that's a big deal. And I've been an engineer for 18 plus years. That's a big accomplishment that I didn't want to mask, that I didn't want to hide. Because guess what? I want other little brown girls to see me, right? And say, hey, I can do that. And I'm going to be honest with you. When people see me, a lot of times they don't even believe I'm an engineer, because they say I don't fit the profile of an engineer. And I don't know if it's a compliment or if it's an insult, right? But nevertheless, I'm a female Black engineer for 18 plus years, right? So I get the best of both worlds is how I look at it, because I get to mentor people to be great engineers. Like, I've been very successful in my engineering career. I mean, very successful. I've worked on projects that have affected, just know, okay? Just know, right? And I didn't want to downplay that, right? I always want to make sure that every single day I don't miss the mark, that I'm being an inspiration, motivation to somebody, right? Somebody out there needs to know and needs to see what I am doing, so they can say, hey, I can do that too. I can be an engineer, right? I can go to college, because there are still some things, some careers that you have to go to college to do, right? No matter how much we feel, that college is a scam, there are still careers that require you to have college degrees. So we still need those careers, those voids filled, right? And, some other things that I've learned when it comes to, being an entrepreneur versus working for someone else, right? And I'm speaking from my experience and what I've witnessed, right? I'm not speaking from a book that I read about someone. I'm speaking about my experience. That's the best teacher. right? To learn from someone else so you don't make that same mistake. Because life is too short for you to make the mistake that you know what I'm saying, that somebody else already made or some people already made. That's why I'm so passionate about, this podcast and my voice, understanding how important it is to use my platform to pour into people and to serve people, right? So, like people say, time freedom. Oh, that's the end goal, to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, go where I want to go, how I want to go. Like, that is the end goal. But let me tell you something about entrepreneurship, right? You don't really have time freedom either. It's not that you're going to become an entrepreneur and you just do whatever you want to do. No, it takes time. It's levels to this, right? You don't really have time freedom either. And when you don't work, you don't get paid unless you have your money working for you. And that takes time. Now, when you get to the point where your money is working for you and it's multiplying, then of course, that's when time freedom comes into play. But it's the process of how you get there. But just starting out, you're not just going to wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And then you just do whatever you want to do. You just free will. You're just a free agent out here. No, it doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. It takes nights to become an overnight success, right? Think about Auntie Tab, right? Think about Tabitha Brown. Yeah, it looks like to us that, she just came on the scene and just did a TikTok and went viral. And now she's like, making all these millions of dollars. She's living out her dream. That took years and years and years and years. But you can still be successful if you work in corporate America as well. You can still climb that ladder and be successful. But what I see in the world that we live in today is that it's always, you can have one thing or the other. You can't have this and that. You got to have salt or pepper. You got to have peanut butter or jelly. No, you can have salt and pepper. You can have peanut butter and jelly. It just gets to the point of, what are you willing to sacrifice, right? You may be willing to, sacrifice family time, right? Because you're working your 9 to 5, right? And then you're working your 5 until. So you may not have a social life, right? You may not get to spend a lot of time with your family, but that's with, you know what I'm saying? Like, it comes with it. What are you willing to sacrifice? But you can have both. But it's going to take a lot of sacrifices. So if you're someone listening to this and, you're contemplating on what to do, you got to do what's right for you. You got to do what feels good to you. Write out a business plan, right? Where do you see yourself in the next 90 days? Where do you see yourself in the next, 6 months? Where do you see yourself in the next year? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years and 10 years? Write that out. And if you're serious and you're dedicated to where you see yourself, then anything that doesn't get you closer to where you see yourself, you should not be doing it. You should not be doing it. But I'm telling you, you can do both. There's just going to come with a lot of sacrifices. But being an entrepreneur has its cons, right? And it has its pros. Working for someone, as we call corporate America, it has its pros and it has its cons. But you can be successful at either one of those. You can be successful at both of those. You can. We still need vice presidents of companies, right? We still need COOs of companies. That could be you. Don't get so caught up of, you can't work in corporate America and be an entrepreneur. Yes, you can. and you can be successful. Do what works for you. Do what you have to do for you, because at the end of the day, you have to answer for every decision that you made, not anybody else. You. It's up to you. And that is my spill for this episode, because I could go on and on and on, and which we are going to continue to go on and on, because it's just so much that I want to say, right? But I'm also going to start doing an episode about lessons learned, right? And you're going to hear from different people, because I want everyone that hears my voice on this podcast, I want everyone that sees me on, Instagram at the CEO Shakima, at the Say What podcast, Shakima D Ford on Facebook, the CEO Shakima on TikTok, the CEO Shakima on Twitter. Those are all my social media handles. I want you guys to see me and be inspired, right? I want to be making an impact in the world. As I said before, I don't want to miss my mark. So I have to show up every single day, no matter how I feel, right? No matter what's going on in my life. When I get on this podcast, it doesn't even matter, because someone needed to hear what I had to say, right? So thank you, chameleons, for rocking with me from day one. I love you. And if you are just hearing my voice for the very first time, welcome. Stay with us. I guarantee you'll learn something every single episode. And the good thing about signing off right now is I'll be back next week. See you guys later. Bye.
Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know? Did you see? Did you hear? Did you know?